This is a Pokemon that needs absolutely no introduction. It's Ho-Oh and it's going to be fast. Now, just before we get into this run, I want to say we've got a community post up with a poll, because I am not sure whether to split legendary Pokemon off onto their own separate leaderboard. It will come as no surprise that Ho-Oh is going to absolutely demolish this game, and I want you as a community to figure out whether we should split them off into their own separate leaderboard or still count them for the main runs. For this run, it's going to go onto the main leaderboard regardless of placement, and then we're going to keep that poll open for around about a month until we do our next legendary Pokemon next month, and then we'll see what the consensus is. Now, we are level 5 with 26 HP, we're holding a berry, and our only move is Sacred Fire, and look at these stats: 19 in attack, 14 in defense, 17 in special attack, 21 in special defense, and 15 in speed. It'll come as no surprise we're absolutely going to tear through the start of this run. It's not a case of if we get a good time, it's a case of how good our time will be. Our first wild encounter is a poor level 2 Sentra and it gets demolished with Sacred Fire. The rival's going to stand no chance either. We go in with Struggle just because it's going to be a much quicker affair this way, and it's going to be about 3 shots to knock out the rival's Totodile. We gave the rival Totodile just because he needed to have something, and I thought I might as well try and give him the leg up to at least try and defeat us in battle at some point, and our first gym leader is Falkner. Poor Falkner will not know what's hit him either. It's one shot on Pidgey, and here comes the Pidgeotto. Sacred Fire, of course, burns and knocks it out in one hit, and we are through Falkner in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. About 4 minutes later, we find ourselves in front of Bugsy. Let's see if he can do any better. I very much doubt it. Sacred Fire one-shots the Metapod. Out comes the Scyther, and he tries his best with Fury Cutter. Sacred Fire makes light work of him though, and then here comes Kakuna. It's the same issue, one shot knocks it out, and we obtain the Hive Badge in 9 minutes and 9 seconds. Here's where I'd normally say we can't celebrate for too long because the dreaded Rival 2 is just around the corner, but in this case, let's just keep that party going. I very much doubt that Rival 2 is going to pose any issues whatsoever. It's Sacred Fire on the Ghastly to knock it out as we grow to level 16. We then burn the Croconaw to add insult to injury and start using Swift to finish it off in just a couple of hits, and then that just leaves the poor Zubat left to go. Sacred Fire connects, it one-shots, and we've defeated all of his Pokemon. Let's see if Whitney can do any better. She's our third gym leader together, and she leads with Clefairy. I can tell you straight away that Sacred Fire is a one-shot on the Clefairy, and out comes the Miltank. We burn the Miltank, and even a critical hit rollout isn't enough to save the day. We knock it out on our second turn, and that's Whitney's badge attained in 14 minutes and 44 seconds. Goodness me, this is a very, very quick run so far. Let's see if the third rival battle will pose any threat whatsoever. He's going to lead with Haunter, so we'll Sacred Fire it so we're not getting cursed, and then out comes the Croconaw. Once again, we try and fish for a burn with Sacred Fire, but it doesn't happen on turn 1. We get it on turn 2, and we'll finish it off with Gust. And then here comes Magnemite. We melt it with our huge 100 base power move, and we'll finish off the Zubat in exactly the same way. Rival 3 completed in 17 minutes and 46 seconds. Let's see if Morty can change the fate of this Ho-Oh. It's going incredibly well for us so far, so let's engage him in battle. He leads with Ghastly and it's a one-shot with Gust. Then it is a range with Gust on the Haunter, but Hypnosis misses. We were holding the Minceberry just in case. Then he doesn't even try with the Gengar. He barely tickles us with Shadow Ball, and we can finish off this final Haunter with a couple of Gusts. We obtain our next badge in 20 minutes and 48 seconds. Let's now move across the open seas to Chuck, where he does have a water-type Pokemon, but we have the type advantage with Gust. It's a one-shot on the Primeape. Let's see if Poliwrath can do anything at all. He uses Surf, barely tickles us because we've got huge special defense, and we get through in 25 minutes and 18 seconds. And it's not going to get any better for the Jotonian gym leaders. Here comes Jasmine. All 3 of her Pokemon have very poor special defense, and all 3 of them can go down to a single Sacred Fire. It's goodbye to both of the Magnemites, and it's also goodbye to the Steelix. 3 one-shots, thank you very much Jasmine, give me the Mineral Badge. 26-26 for the Mineral Badge, and we are now on to Pryce. He's our 7th gym leader together, and he's going to lead with Seal. Now, Seal isn't an ice-type Pokemon, but it goes away with one single Shadow Ball. We carry on with the Shadow Ball against the Dugong, and we knock it out in 2. And then here comes Piloswine. We swap to Sacred Fire, we knock it out in a single hit, and that's the Glacier Badge obtained in 33 minutes and 57 seconds. We have never seen times like this on the leaderboard so far. Let's keep this going. Let's see if there's anything that can stop Ho-Oh in its tracks. We use Hidden Power Ice against the Golbat to knock it out in 1, and here comes Feraligatr. We use our huge physical attack to dispose of Feraligatr in 2 hits, and here comes a Magnemite. Sacred Fire does the job as we already knew it would. We swap to Shadow Ball for the Haunter, and that's a simple, super effective one-shot. And the final Pokemon is Sneasel. We don't even need to Sacred Fire the Sneasel. Return is more than enough. We knock it out, and we're through the 4th rival battle in under 40 minutes. We're battling Clair at 45 minutes and 18 seconds. We have Hidden Power Ice. This is going to be a foregone conclusion. I didn't even bother to heal. That is how confident I am in Ho-Oh's abilities. 3 one-shots on the Dragonair, and here comes the Kingdra. We get the burn off on the Kingdra to try and do a little bit of passive damage, and then we swap to return. Smokescreen connects, but the Kingdra is going to get knocked out. There's nothing Clair can do. Even that last Surf doesn't make a difference. We knock it out, and we are through Clair and obtain the Rising Badge in 46 minutes and 36 seconds. I like sub 1 hour Clair. This was nearly 45 minutes Clair. That is absolutely ludicrous. We're on to the final rival battle now, and there is still seemingly nothing that can stop Ho-Oh in its tracks. We've got a whopping 173 in attack, and return is now at full power. There is nothing that any of these Pokemon can do to stop us. Return being at full power, including all the boosts, means we are looking at around about a 120 base power move. Combine that with 177 in attack, and we are in for one of the easiest runs we have ever had here together on the channel. We get through the rival in under 50 minutes, and we go straight to depositing the HM friends. So it's a very big thank you to Kenya, Abra, Cider, Comparis. We will buy our 4 full restores. I'm fairly certain we won't need all 4 of them. And then let's take a look at our stats going into the league. We are level 46 with 180 HP. We're holding the Scamulet coin with Return, Shadow Ball, Earthquake, and Hidden Power Ice. 158 in attack, 118 in defense, 139 in special attack, 179 in special defense, and a huge amount of speed to boot as well. Those are the out of battle stats. The in battle stats are even better. First League members will. Shadow Ball is going to make incredibly light work of all of these Pokemon. The first 2 Pokemon go away. Let's see if Xatu number 2 can do anything different. It absolutely cannot. How about Jinx? Jinx does not jinx this run, and we've just got Executor left to go. A critical hit, and make sure it goes down in 1 hit, and we are through Will in 50 minutes and 38 seconds. Let's see if Koga can stop us in our tracks. He is, of course, a Poison-type specialist who leads with Ariados. It's a 1-hit with Return to knock the Ariados out, and here comes Muck. We use Earthquake on Muck, and it knocks it out in a single hit, and the next Pokemon is Crobat. We don't really have anything particularly great for the Crobat at the moment, so we use a Shadow Ball on turn 1, and finish it off with Hidden Power. The next Pokemon is Venomoth, and yet again we're going to use Return. We range it, but Supersonic misses, and the final Pokemon is Fortress. Now you may notice we don't have Sacred Fire anymore. As great as that move is, it's not 100% accurate, and it also only has 5 power points. Fire isn't a great offensive type when we get to the later part of the run, which is why I decided instead to sacrifice that move and take a couple of slower hits, because that would still be quicker than having to constantly use ethers and elixirs from the bag. We're now on to Bruno, and Bruno's going to be no issue at all either. Thunder Punch and Rock Slide are the 2 dangerous moves in this battle. We didn't get paralysed by Thunder Punch. We can easily survive a single Rock Slide, and then Hitmonlee can do nothing to us as we knock it out in 1. That's Bruno in 52:02. How about Karen? She has been the person to stop so many 0 reset runs in its tracks. Let's see how we get on. And we actually have a bit of a disaster at the start of this run. We'd already consumed the Bitter Berry, so I was going in with the Nevermelt Ice in preparation for Lance. We hit ourselves in confusion a couple of times, and that meant we were on much lower HP for the rest of the battle than what I intended. Fortunately for us, Gengar was a one-shot, as was Murkrow. Houndoom comes out and we've got Earthquake for that, so that's another one-shot, and the final Pokemon is Vileplume. Our special attack isn't the best, but it's more than enough to take care of Vileplume in 2 hits, and we are through Karen in 52 minutes and 56 seconds. There's only one obstacle now between us and the Hall of Fame. It's Lance, the Liar with the Flyers, and he's going to lead with Gyarados. There's one Pokemon in this battle that poses a threat, and that is Aerodactyl. Stab Rock Slide, the illegal move by the way, could cause an awful lot of damage. We've got to get through the Gyarados and the 2 Dragonite first before we even see what Aerodactyl's like, and we are hoping to outspeed and we're hoping to one-shot with a very lucky critical hit. That is what we've done, so the rest of the battle is free. Wing Attack barely does any damage whatsoever. We'll use Hidden Power Ice against the Dragonite. We knock it out and we are through Lance in 53 minutes and 48 seconds. That is our fastest ever league time, and we get into the Hall of Fame at 54 minutes and 4 seconds. We are absolutely on an astonishing run, but there is still yet more to come, so don't you dare go anywhere, because Kanto is next. And we rejoin in Vermilion City, where the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We're going to get another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club. We're rocking the same learn set we had just after defeating Lance, and now let's go into our first Kantonian gym leader together. This is Lieutenant Surge, the electric type specialist who leads with Raichu. And much like in some previous runs, even though we have the type disadvantage to the electric type, we are more than capable of getting through Surge on our very first attempt. So once again, there's no need for a route change, and we can carry on with our regular Kantonian routing. And now, while the gym leaders are going on in the background, I want to talk to you about the legendary Pokemon. It'll come as no surprise that all the legendary Pokemon are going to do very well on the leaderboard. And this is why I have been in a bit of a catch-22 situation. I'm still unsure to this day whether to keep legendaries on the main run leaderboard or whether to split them off into their own category just by virtue of being so ridiculously overpowered in the runs. That's why we've not actually seen a legendary on the main run leaderboard so far. I don't want to stick them on the end of the line leaderboard because they don't evolve, and that would feel very unfair to those fully evolved Pokemon on that leaderboard. So just a reminder, we do have the community post in place where you can all have your say as to whether the legendary Pokemon should stay on the main leaderboard or whether they should have their own different category. I can definitely see arguments for either way, and I'm not going to be the one to decide. I'm going to make it all up to you, because that's one of the things I love about the channel here. We always try and include everybody in the decision making. We've seen it right since the very beginning of the channel, where I took on feedback from the very first few comments I received. I love getting your feedback, be it positive or negative, because I always think I can learn something from everybody who watches the videos here on the channel. So if there's something you've been thinking about mentioning but you've not thought to make a comment, why not do it now? The absolute worst I can say if it's a suggestion for routing is that I've already factored it and it didn't quite work, and you never know, I might be able to factor something into the routing that's going to give us even quicker times. And now for the latter part of the Kantonian Gauntlet, I do want to bring up the super effective and the stab fallacies. You may notice we don't have a single stab move on the learn set. Sometimes it's actually beneficial to run with the higher power moves that don't have stab. We don't get Wing Attack with Ho-Oh, we're stuck with Gust as our only flying type move, and that is not a great move in general. And then if we look at our level up learn sets for fire type moves, both of them have just 5 PP, and neither of them is going to be very good over the course of a challenge run. And we're actually going to see that when we get to the red fight as well. We will go to the move tutor in Goldenrod City, however instead of learning Flamethrower, we're going to learn Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is super effective against 2 of Red's Pokemon. It will give us something incredibly nice for the Charizard, but much more importantly, it's going to be super effective against the Blastoise. And in addition to that, we've got the chance of paralysis, which means we could easily incapacitate Blastoise for long enough to make sure that we knock it out without taking too much damage. But now let's rejoin the action at blue, where his Pidgeot poses no threat whatsoever, and we can move on to the Rhydon. Rhydon is going to be weak to Hidden Power Ice, so it goes down in a single hit, and here comes Gyarados. Gyarados is arguably the most threatening of all the Pokemon, but he wastes a turn setting up. That means the rain is up, but that doesn't matter to us, we don't have a Fire-type move on the learn set. We can knock out Alakazam with a single return, and now that Rain Dance has screwed him over for Arcanine. The only move that Arcanine can really use at this point is Extreme Speed, which is absolutely useless against us. It is barely tickling us at all. He gets into a healing loop and we knock him out, surviving on 162, and here comes Exeggutor. We get seeded on turn 1, but it is too little too late. We are through blue and we have defeated all 16 gym leaders without a single reset. And now there's one thing between us and our final leaderboard time. It is time for Red, the final battle of the run, and he leads with Pikachu. We have a bit of a disaster because Pikachu outspeeds us. We take a reset and we're going to use 3 rare candies. We need 3 rare candies to make sure our speed is above the magic 171. That means that Pikachu is now totally irrelevant. We can move on to the Blastoise, and this is why we have Thunderbolt. We paralyze it and Rain Dance is meaningless. We don't have a Fire-type move on the learn set, and if anything, that's just going to hinder some of the later Pokemon. We don't outspeed the Espeon, however, and then he sets up a Reflect. We're going to have to play it smart against this Snorlax. We are both capable of paralysing each other, and we do it on the same turn. Let's not waste any more time, let's grow up to level 64 and see if we can do any better. We know Pikachu is irrelevant, we more than outspeed it, and here comes Blastoise once again. We use Thunderbolt, take it deep into the yellow, and another Thunderbolt knocks it out. That is the only Pokemon with a super effective move on the learn set against us. The rest of the battle should be relatively easy. We knock out the Espeon in one hit now, and we can move on to the Snorlax. Snorlax is going to be bulky, it's going to be the biggest threat of this battle. We just have to hope that Body Slam doesn't crit or paralyze, but it does, and we use some more rare candies. We're now at level 68, let's see if we can do any better this time. Pikachu is completely meaningless, it goes down in one hit, and we know that Blastoise is irrelevant as well. He'll always use Rain Dance on turn 1, so we don't have to worry about it. We are now at a point where Espeon is a consistent one-shot. We outspeed it, so we don't have to worry about Reflect. Return is now a little bit more powerful against the Snorlax. It's going to be a 2-shot with a critical hit. We are in a really good position now. We swap to Thunderbolt for the Charizard and we knock it out in 2 hits. He's only got Venusaur left to go. Venusaur has a 2-turn move, so we can have that little bit of wiggle room. We knock it out in 2 hits and we have defeated Red in 1 hour, 11 minutes and 32 seconds. That is the fastest time we have ever completed Pokemon Crystal, including backports, and it is a well-deserved first place on the leaderboard. That knocks Pidgeot down into 2nd place and Girafarig down into 3rd. Apom is now in the page 1 drop zone and Charizard has dropped down onto page 2. At the other end of page 2 it's now Azumarill in the page 2 drop zone, and if we take a look at page 3 we have a new header of page 3 in Starmie, and still it's Pawpaw Shuckle in 83rd place. We'll get some company for that at some point, I am very sure. But with that, we are done. So I hope you have enjoyed this run. If you have, please do leave a like. If you've got any feedback at all, leave it in the comments down below. If you don't want to miss any runs just like this, then make sure to subscribe. And until next time when we're running Seeking through the Pokemon Crystal Gauntlet, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.